Hello, my name is Nikki. I use they, them pronouns. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be reading the book Thirst Trap, written by Gráinne O'Hare. This book came to me highly recommended by my friend Mary Kate, who makes TikToks about books and literary criticism, so you should check that out. I trust Mary Kate with my life, but especially when it comes to literature and book recommendations. And from the way that she was describing this book, it seemed like it would be a romp and a good time. And let me tell you, I really need a fun book right now. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing in this vlog, is reading this book and sharing my live thoughts and reactions. So spoiler alert. Let me start off by giving you the summary from Storygraph. First, can I just say that the cover is spectacular? It's like a cigarette in a little Barbie shoe, which is funny. It says, "Sometimes friends hold you together, sometimes they're why you're falling apart. Maggie, Harley, and Rosha are friends on the brink of triumph, catastrophe, or maybe just finally growing up. Their crumbling Belfast house share has been witness to their roaring 20s, filled with questionable one-night stands and ruthless hangovers. But now fault lines are beginning to show. The three girls are still grieving the tragic death of their friend Lydia, whose room remains untouched. Their last big fight hangs heavy over their heads, unspoken since the accident, and now they are all beginning to unravel." Thirst Trap by Gráinne O'Hare is a blazing, bittersweet, bitingly funny, and painfully relatable story about the friendships that endure through the very best and the very worst of times. So I'm really hoping that this book delivers on building out the individual identities of these three female protagonists, but also creating a fun friend group dynamic. I read about 10% of this book last night, and so far we are introduced to our three protagonists on a wild night out for one of their birthdays. They go to the club and have to check in a gifted plant, a cactus, to the coat check, which is very funny. They get drunk, they do drugs, dance, have a great time. The next morning, they're all horribly hungover, but have to attend the anniversary mass of their friend's death. The fourth girl in their friend group, Lydia, who had died a year previous in a road accident. We also get to follow one of the characters on a day at her corporate job at a recruitment agency, and she has a funny little secret crush on her boss. And there's a funny moment where she's in the car afterwards talking to her mom about work. It says, "Rosha would never tell her mother about her notion for Adam, but she lauds him in other ways, feeling as though her professional praises are sly euphemisms for other darker things. He's such an attentive team leader, so dedicated, incredible work ethic." The formality of saying this to her mom gives Rosha a strange kind of thrill, as if Adam is tracing his tongue up the inside of her thigh from under the table where no one can see. Humor in writing is so subjective, and it's very rare that I will laugh out loud while I'm reading. But this book is making me smile so far, and I'm excited to keep reading it. about 25% of the way through Thirst Trap. It's been switching perspectives pretty much every chapter between the three main protagonists. They're just kind of like going about, their daily lives, working their jobs, going to therapy, getting STI tested, and every now and then they kind of like have a moment where something reminds them of their friend Lydia, who has passed away. They keep alluding to this like conflict that their friend group had with Lydia before she died. Rosha had stopped speaking to Lydia almost instantly after what she did. Maggie, similarly fuming, had been more than happy to follow. Harley joined them dutifully, although she seemed less comfortable about it, keen for the conflict to pass and for things to go back to the way they'd been, as if that were possible. And I'm like, tell me, like, what could have possibly happened? It definitely, like, compels me to keep reading. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of Fleabag in that, Fleabag is dealing with the grief of losing her best friend and is also alluding to, like, this conflict that they had, not giving you a lot of details in a very forthcoming way. And I wonder if Thirst Trap is even going to, like, reveal what the conflict was, or if it's going to be like, it wasn't that important anyway. Okay, I've been reading for a little bit. I'm about halfway through now, and they revealed what the betrayal was. It was cheating. So to recap, we have our friend group made up of Rosha, Maggie, and Harley. Also in their group is their deceased friend Lydia, who's like the fourth in their friend group, and also Maggie's brother, who is dating Lydia. So that's the whole friend group dynamic. There is some big betrayal involving Lydia, and then she dies in a car accident. And they're alluding to, like, this big falling out in the whole friend group. And then they finally reveal that Lydia, who is dating Maggie's brother Liam, fucks Rosha's boyfriend. Lydia basically fucks her best friend's boyfriend and breaks her other best friend's brother's heart in the process. That was a pretty juicy reveal. And all of this is revealed to us during a, like, chaotic, emotional Christmas dinner scene where everyone eats too much, gets drunk, and then piss each other off. And are somewhat brutally honest to each other. I flew through that chapter because there was just so much going on. And I feel like O'Hare does a really good job of creating, like, the shared voice of this friend group. Like, obviously, they're best friends, so they have, like, like a similar sense of humor and, a shared way of speaking. But also, like, when they're all having banter or like having a conversation or a fight, I think that like each of the characters still has like their distinct voice. So it's just like very believable that they're all really close and have a lot of shared history and love for each other. But they're also like distinct enough so that the conflict feels real. It's just like a very well-written friend group dynamic.
A person's citizenship status. There's also no prohibition on U.S. banks opening accounts for non-citizens.
So I did a good chunk of reading this weekend. Honestly, after that like Christmas dinner scene that I talked about and the book moved into part 2, I feel like I just like flew through it. So yeah, after the Christmas dinner scene where the friend group kind of like puts everything out on the table, I feel like the second half is just like this reckoning of all of them coming to terms with like their unhandled grief and the unhealthy ways that they've been coping with it rather than like talking about it. I feel like all of them are coping with their grief and also this feeling that I think a lot of people in their like late 20s to early 30s can relate to, where it feels like there's a very like prescribed way that your life is kind of like expected to go when you're at this age, especially if you're a woman, where people expect you to like, you know, settle down, get married, have kids. And I think this friend group is just like not quite doing that. They all like to, you know, go out and party. They're all like living together in a shitty rental house, and none of them are in like serious long-term relationships. They all have like various questionable situationships. And there are several times in the novel where they're all kind of like comparing their lives with, you know, people that they grew up with who followed a more set path in life. And yeah, I think this aspect of the book will definitely be relatable to a lot of people. Just like the messiness of it all. I thought the Christmas dinner was going to be the climax, but the book really comes to like this huge climax when the girls throw a house party and invite over their friends and also all of their like situationships. And there's just like so many moving parts. It was like such a dynamic scene. And it ended in like the staircase in their shitty rental house just like collapsing. It kind of just like brings everything that they had been dealing with to the surface. So yeah, that house party scene, there was just like so much happening and so much going on and like so many things coming to light. And then when the staircase collapsed, it was just like a moment where the characters and also you as the reader are like, what the fuck just happened? And it was just like kind of absurd and really funny. Yeah, and then from there, there's like, you know, resolving action, and the whole friend group kind of like, yeah, coming to terms with everything and trying to find a way to move forward. Overall, I really loved this book. I thought it was really well done. The things that really stuck with me were how the author kind of like developed the dynamic of the friend group as well as like the individual characterizations of the 3 main protagonists. I thought that was like super well done, and I felt like very endeared to all the characters, and I was rooting for them, but also like all of them were starting to bug me in their own ways, and I feel like that made me feel like I was part of their friend group in a way. The other thing that I loved about this book was the humor really worked with me. Like, I think the author just has like a really funny voice and was able to like write really good dialogue and banter. There were just like so many funny moments where I was just like reading and laughing to myself. Yeah, I think the humor was really strong in this book for sure. For example, like when they threw the house party, one of the characters was like taking her situationship into her room to fuck, and she pulls the other girls into a huddle and she's like, if one of you needs to come into my room, do a secret knock. And they were like, what's the secret knock? And she was like, I don't fucking know, do the opening bars of Blue Monday. I was cracking up. This book was just like entertaining, heartfelt, and really funny. That's Thirst Trap by Gráinne O'Hare. Let me know if you are interested in this book or end up reading it, and let me know what you think. Okay, bye.